You want to know what I'm looking at right now? I'll gladly show you. See that poster right there? That particular poster right there next to the records. Out of how many movie posters I have of Big Trouble in Little China, or any just films in general, this is the movie poster that I hold sacred, not only next to my computer, but right next to me on a daily fucking basis. Whenever I come to my computer, do whatever work I need to do, talk about whatever films like I am with you all right now, which is literally the relevancy of what this little talk is about with you all. But just coming here to general, if I'm just, doing whatever, I see this poster literally every single night. And the thing is that when I see this poster, not only do I get reflected of this particular movie, but it just reminds me every single day of that quote that George Carlin said in the film that I just not only religiously rely on, but it was also the fact that that particular score was played in the background as Omnion's music, not only describing who Wild Stallions are, but in the future will be. But that quote that George Carlin said, Rufus said, I meditate on that particular quote, and it goes something like this, and I quote, "You see, eventually your music will help put an end to war and poverty. It will align the planets and bring them into universal harmony, allowing meaningful contact with all forms of life from extraterrestrial beings to common household pets. And it's excellent for dancing." End quote. The reason why I rely on this quote so much is because it gives me a sense of hope with my everyday life. Because for someone like me who isn't necessarily musically talented, but is musically smart, and relies on this particular decade because the 80s is literally who I am with my surroundings of what brought me up to where I am. I mean, the fucking shirt says it right here of I want my MTV. From what it was during the 80s when it first started, where music television was music television, along with some frivolity of some interviews or some shenanigans or some television programs to break up the pattern a little bit, but it always focused on the music. Wild Stallions, Bill S. Preston Esquire, and Ted Theodore Logan, Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves. Crazy enough, be excellent to each other and party on, dudes, was originally going to be one of my yearbook quotes, but I unfortunately didn't get it in time. But that was going to be my yearbook quote. And the thing is that I've had several people wrote in my yearbook, be excellent to each other and party on, dudes, because it's how well versed that I am that I absolutely love this movie to no end. I mean, I can go on forever just talking about the reasons why I love about it, but to give a little personal note why this film is my absolute favorite of all time, where I'm not even going to bother with the whole rating system because obviously it's a 6 out of 5 in terms of what I gave it, but it's also the fact that this film hit me on such a personal note, not only in the younger years, but still to this very day as an adult, because when you are someone who's in your youth or getting older, you have dreams you want to accomplish, you have goals you want to fulfill, and these two had to complete their history point in order to make sure that their music that they are willing to create will be successful. Because Bill and Ted were both failing history class, and they were met up with a guy from the future who was named Rufus, played by George Carlin, and they told him, look, you got to use this telephone booth, dial in the numbers, go on a journey, get everything you need for your history report, pass the report, and your music will hopefully be a future success. So they took up Rufus's word and they go on this little excellent adventure. And it's not just the whole story itself of creativity and originality, but something that was new and exciting. But it was the fact that you had two of these personalities who were best friends with the same goal, same dream, who not only were living in the whole realm of what the 80s total youth was about, but they were also metalheads as well. Maybe a little synthesizers, but they were complete metalheads. You can listen to Van Halen, Poison, Motley Crue, David Lee Roth. Who else can I think of in terms of metal? Aerosmith. Probably more hard rock, but you get what I mean. But there was a lot of bands. Def Leppard. A lot of metal bands from the 1980s that they were huge fans of. I like listening to Wasp, Vixen once in a while. Warrant. But anyways, Van Halen was, if not one of their biggest inspirations for their music that they wanted. But it was not just about teen youth, but it was the fact that these two were really close friends. Like I said, same goal, same dream, same mentality, and they were both failing equally. And they literally had to go on this adventure to collect all of these fucking history reports. I mean, if you want to know some of the figures that they collected, you had Billy the Kid, Napoleon Bonaparte, and there was a whole little scheme where once they collected Napoleon Bonaparte first, they literally kept him with Ted's brother Zeke, who had to fucking watch him. So they took him to that fucking ice cream shack, make him eat the Ziggy Piggy ice cream dessert, ate all in one setting, and him going to the fucking water park and just having a whole montage of that was pretty funny. He was acting like he was all in battle and everything. Just the whole segment with Napoleon Bonaparte was hilarious. Then you had Socrates, like stand through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives, that infamous quote. Then getting some extra credit where you had Genghis Khan, Joan of Arc, who was played by Joan Wilden, who was, if I remember correctly, and rightfully so, that she was a member of the Go-Go's, and she not only was she cute as a doll back in the 80s, but she also had some very prominent success as a solo artist as well. You also had Abraham Lincoln, who gave that outstanding speech at the end. You had Ludwig von Beethoven and Sigmund Freud. They had a lot of extra credit that they needed to complete their history reports. Not only did this movie have outstanding quotes that are not only memorable, but it's like I said, it's their personalities, it's their traits. They can bounce off one another. They can relate. Falling in love, the youth. Realizing that you're going to have to grow up and accept the fact of if you're going to be successful in music or not. You know, have a wife, have kids, and all that stuff. It just all depends exactly how their lives are going to be. Not only once they complete their history report, but how their lives are going to change. So this movie was a coming of age, in my mind, somewhat like a coming of age story, at least in my mentality, because of the connection and relation of the youthfulness. Musically, story-wise, personality, fun, excitement, outstanding fucking soundtrack. The futuristic time portal that they traveled into that was not intentional, but once they went in, the futuristic portal saw that Bill and Ted were literally the future of music in terms of literally everything Rufus stated at the end of the movie. The fact that they were going to be the ones to not only have perfect harmony, align the planets, make from extraterrestrial life and human life, animals, all that speak and be one, end all bullshit and everything where everybody just comes together as one. And the fact that everybody will literally be in this fucking world dancing, having fun, and just making love with each other with that special someone you have in your life. That's what Wild Stallions music was all about. And that whole entire mentality, at least for me, still stands here. Why? Because like I said, hope, faith, believing in yourself and having confidence of what the future could possibly change once you put your mind to it. And did I mention that the movie is funny as well? Well, it is. The movie is hilarious. It's fun. It's entertaining. It stands out as, to me, if not a movie that has like not only a perfect story that is something fresh and exciting, but this movie captivated the 1980s, because this was 1989 when this came out, and the 80s was coming to an end. The 90s was literally right around the corner. It's like real soon. Wayne's World came out later on in the early 90s, which still captivated that 80s look. Also in the beginning of the 90s, but more on that at some other time. This movie literally helped captivate what the 80s was all about. The look, the appeal, personality, the sounds, the music. the whole how this film was shot, little effects here and there, the interactions, just everything of what captivated what the 80s was. Of all sorts of stories that you got from the 1980s within the films, of all the genres of action, adventure, comedy, horror, sci-fi, fantasy, western, martial arts, all that. This to me represented the fun of what the 80s was. Like when you were a young teenager all those years ago, for someone who was born in the 80s and lived through that decade, this is the movie that captivated and will help for anybody out there who lived in the 80s. This is the movie that, if not, reconnects to your childhood of what life was like. You're with your buddies, you're going to 7-Eleven, you're playing that heavy metal, you're spinning the records, you got your cassette tapes, going to McDonald's for only $1 Big Mac or a cheeseburger, just living life and having fun. And that's what I got, and that's a lot that I got from this movie. For someone like me, who I consider to be a lost soul of the 80s, for those who know me from watching the tapes and everything, my surroundings were the 80s. It's literally who I am from my youth to now. And when I saw Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure when I was small, and still to this very day, I was like, you know what? This is one of those movies, one of those many films that I can list, if not at the top there, that not only made me fall in love with cinema, but also helped me grow as a person in terms of my personality, my traits, my likings, and what I absolutely adore about a particular decade, but also watching film in general, and that you can grow to love a personality, whether it's just one or two, maybe three characters. You get to adapt and learn and grow a fresh love for said characters that you just enjoy watching. They can act all silly, but warm, caring hearts. And that's what Bill and Ted are. Keanu Reeves, when he started his life in the movies, this was one of those prominent characters where he really started off. Sure, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, that was a, you can say, mediocre film, but I have fun. But for me, I have fun with it. Bill and Ted 3, Face the Music. That one as well. But besides those two movies, Excellent Adventure is exactly what this movie is, and the title is in it. It is purely excellent. Now, as for my favorite scene in the film, the futuristic portal that they've entered, in time, when that song started playing, and they meet up with the front lead of the futuristic world, they held up and say, "Be excellent to each other and party on, dudes." That right there is, to me, a perfect scene with very little. It's a small surrounding. It's two of the beloved personalities that you were growing to love. It's a little breather from what the main story is. It's that scene alone is giving you a break, like a small little break of what the film is, captivating the future of what these two are willing to strive for. The music itself, that song is literally, if not my personal theme. To me, that song, In Time, once again, I've said it how many times already, captivated the fucking 80s. In time, everything will be alright. Those lyrics alone, just hearing those two fucking lyrics right there, just those lines, it just tells me to be a better person. It just tells me that everything will be alright. It's a hopeful fucking song. I absolutely love the hell of this movie. George Carlin, he was fantastic. And George Carlin's a funny ass man. I love him. When he played as Rufus, fantastic. Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter, these two were just made to be Bill and Ted together. And they bounced off phenomenally. Original story, that is fantastic. Great music, fun, hilarious, comedy. The report, it's the whole entire showcase. The report was made like a concert. Outstanding presentation. Mixture of both, not only explaining these historical figures, but also adding in the music references as well. This movie is just amazing. Personal fucking, it's literally, like I said, it's my favorite movie of all time. Personally, figuratively, literally, all that stuff. So, folks, I'm gonna get the hell out of here. And also, one more thing. If it wasn't for this movie, my whole entire appearance that I got right here wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for help of this inspiration from this film. So, folks, if there's one thing I learned from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, is Iron Maiden and be excellent to each other and party on, dudes. For those out there who've seen this movie, let me know down below your thoughts below. Ciao for now.